Welcome to Fireside, a business show that will hopefully discuss other issues as well. And our style is to be informal and informative at the same time, but in a hopefully no holds barred way. And as you can see, there's no fire, but hopefully we'll find things warm enough to keep everything on. And I'm starting the show with Prashant Tandon. Welcome to the show, Prashant.
Pleasure.
Prashant is the CEO and co-founder of 1mg. We will talk to him about his journey, his ideas of the future, and let's plunge right in. Prashant, let's discuss a bit about how you started 1mg. You know, it used to be called HealthKart, HealthKart Plus.
Yeah, sure. So it used to be called HealthKart Plus. And it was a line of business within my previous company. I started a company called HealthKart in 2011. And then HealthKart Plus was an initiative within that company, which grew so much and took a life of its own that I decided that it was important enough for me to spend my entire
What's the
focus
difference
on this.
between this and that?
Yeah, so HealthKart is essentially a nutrition company. So what we are about is at HealthKart, we are the largest nutrition store and develop our own private brands of nutrition products that are made in India and tailored to the wellness and fitness side of things. HealthKart Plus is a much more, or now 1mg, is targeted on the medical side of healthcare. So information, e-pharmacy, e-diagnostics, e-consultations. So all kinds of healthcare products and services on this one platform. So in terms of positioning, they are very different platforms.
Yeah, but one is more about people who want to be healthy and fit, and the more is about people who might be sick. The second one.
Correct.
Okay. But 1mg is a very funny name. I mean, how did you come across the name?
So yeah, it was quite an interesting exercise. So we got all the team members together, and so we wanted to change the name because the way it had grown, we felt it was much more than just a plus on HealthKart at that stage, and it deserved an identity of its own. And we came up with a bunch of names. People threw out all kinds of names, and we wanted something that stands out, something that is mobile first, small name that can catch attention. And somebody in the team kind of suggested that, okay, because medicines is at the core of what we do, how about just say something like 100mg? And then I asked, like, if number is interesting, but then why 100, why not 1? Then let's be number 1 in whatever we do. And very important part, that was a domain name that was available also.
Oh yeah, everybody has to think backwards from the .com.
Exactly, yeah. So that also worked. And for whatever it was worth, the office where we were at that time, our previous office, the address was 1mg Road.
Oh, that is something very interesting.
Just felt all stars are aligning nicely, and this kind of name.
The space sounds a little crowded to me. You know, we keep hearing of so many online pharmacies.
Yeah.
You know, you have Myra and MedPlus and MedLife and PharmEasy. It seems like just shop online. I mean, what's the differentiator for 1mg? What's so special about you?
A great question. And I think we often get slotted as yet another e-pharmacy kind of play, but at least the way we have built the business and the way we see ourselves, we see it pretty differently. We see ourselves more as a healthcare platform where pharmacy is one of the lines of business. We are not just a shop. And what I mean by that is, from the beginning, we have crafted 1mg as a platform which is integrated healthcare for the patient. So it started with information. We added pharmacy, diagnostics, consultations. We have added medical records, pill reminders, emergency services, and a lot of features. Essentially, we want to be the one partner for a healthcare consumer. Now, as a result of that, our scope of operation is actually very, very expansive. E-pharmacy is almost half the business, but there's the other half also, which is in many different lines of health.
You seem like a, and if I may say so, a gatecrasher in an industry. You have established giants like Guardian Pharmacy and Apollo, and even MedPlus, one of your competitors, has its own offline chain. So how do you own the domain in that sense? I mean, You're not a doctor, Prashant.
I'm not, and I won't pretend to be anywhere close to being one. But I think, see, at the end of the day, the market moves in the direction the consumers feel most comfortable with. And the world is moving towards more and more. We're seeing a digital leapfrog happening in the country. And frankly, how did the pharmacy line start? It was actually users, our consumers of information, kept asking us, why can't we get these medicines delivered to us? So we started that. We weren't trying to kill an Apollo or a MedPlus or anyone. It was just our users asking for this, and we thought, yes, great, it's a great opportunity, great business as well.
The implication being that they wanted it cheaper. It's not that they were not getting it
at home. They want that. So consumers need a bunch of things. They need access. They need affordability. They need authenticity. And they need the full availability with convenience. Now, pharmacy purchase is generally not an experience of joy or pleasure. You just need to get it done, and you want it from any place you can trust that you are getting a quality medicine. Now, when you look at the market in detail, if you look at the city market, right now we are talking on the way home, if I need to buy medicines for my parents, grandparents, anyone in the family, all it takes is a few tabs and the medicines will come home. Significantly easier than finding parking, going to a pharmacy, going to 3 so that all the 5 things are available, all that stuff. So there were pain points in the industry. That's why people are flocking to it. So at the end of the day, the other thing, very, very common point, people come from small towns to cities for treatment, go back, those brands are not available. Internet basically creates one national market. If it's available anywhere in the country, we'll make it available to you. So a lot of this value is very real. And of course, I won't deny that there are discounts and better pricing that is getting people a feel of this style of accessing medicines. Having said that, the value is actually much more than that.
But so this is not simple e-commerce kind of technology in that sense.
Yeah, no, so there's a lot more. One, I think healthcare has a very differentiated level of need for data security, data privacy. So front end, yes, the carts look the same, payment, checkout, all that stuff is e-commerce, understandable. However, the back end, the strength of that data privacy, all the protocols that we have set up to make sure that the system security has to be at a different level because it's healthcare.
Okay, before we go further, just one small point. I mean, there's always a joke that in e-commerce, if you're buying a sofa set, they tell you want a side table with that.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in healthcare, right? You can't say you're buying a BP medicine, so go for the one which has cholesterol. I mean, how do you advance? I know AI is still in its early stages. So is there any health checks? I mean, there's no...
No, actually there is. There's a bunch of stuff that you start learning about patterns. Of course, we can't prescribe medicines. That's beyond our scope. But if you're taking a BP medicine and we know a little bit more about, say, your demographics or your history, we are able to suggest that, yes, this kind of nutrition product you might want to see, these 3 articles you might want to read, maybe these lab tests would be relevant.
Oh, there is a medicine nutrition, that is, let's say, healthcare from wellness point of view.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it as that you take salt A, then you should take salt B. That's not the idea, but because you take salt A means you have this condition. And for this condition, this is the information, these are the diagnostic tests you should consider getting done regularly, these are the nutrition supplements or whatever else you may need. So the machine learning part does play a decent enough role in making it a lot more personalized. Having said that, medicine certainly we can't prescribe.
Interesting, but let me take you to the other realm, because you were talking about data security, you're talking about checks and quality control that regularly, kind of brings you to the other part of the global healthcare industry, which is regulation. You nearly were stopped on your track last year with the High Court stopping, one High Court stopping and another order letting you function again. Where do you really stand on this in terms of regulation? You have to constantly look over your shoulder to see the law is not after you.
Yes, and it's it's a real challenge in general because see, regulation's job is to maintain status quo and not lest there should be no variation. The job of an innovator is to break status quo and find better ways of doing things. So there is an inherent kind of lag in the, and the both keep trying to catch up with each other. So the good news here is that fundamentally what we are doing is value added for a consumer and actually deeply necessary for a country like India. And I would say the regulatory aspect, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. So for us, it was never really a huge challenge because we have been engaging with all stakeholders from the very beginning. So whether it's the Ministry of Health, the drug regulators, the Ministry of IT, technology, because there is a certain way and level of compliance that we operate in. These are models that have already been established in many parts of the world. Access to healthcare, access to a lot of services and products through technology is just going to be important or critical down the line, and the government gets it.
I think the health locker and the digital lockers, even government is talking about it. So
Indian government actually has taken a very progressive view on the role of technology in healthcare, and of course, this is one of those industries where that engagement will never stop. We have to.
It's a global thing.
And I think it's also incumbent upon us to make sure that we operate responsibly. At the end of the day, things have to work in the interest of the patient.
Yeah, but the government was supposed to be coming up with a policy for
Yes.
It's been dragging for 1 year. Now they've said it'll come within 100 days of the Modi 2.0. We don't see it. What's your take on that?
Hopefully soon.
Are your competitors on board on this policy, or is there some, as they say in Hindi, dhakka mukhi going on with the policy? No?
There are always, I guess, some push and pulls happening, but all the digital players, all of us worked together engaging with the government. So we've all collaborated to make sure that at least we are not fighting each other and there is a unified view.
Talking about, it's like you have apps these days for fitness. So this is something like more on the real life cycle issues of healthcare. But let's talk about your own health, financial. There's been a frenzied amount of funding going on in the industry. You got $100 million already, right? And that includes what? Sequoia, guys who funded Google. So you're...
we've been fortunate to have some very high quality investors back us. Sequoia, of course, is there. There's IFC, which is the investment arm of the World Bank. There's Corrisol, which is Europe's largest e-pharmacy's largest investor. Maverick, who's done a lot of digital health across the US. HBM, a large private equity fund that does only healthcare around the world.
So it's not just money; it's about
we've got high quality folks. The best in the game are excited about what we are building, and I think actually the investment frenzy hasn't even started. You're talking of one of the largest industries out there to be getting actively disrupted or changing for the better, and technology is, I don't think there's much doubt that technology is going to play a big role in that.
But I'm going to ask you something which is very, very sort of tricky in this business, because you are a platform and you're dealing with pharmaceutical companies. You might be having hospitals in mind or healthcare. Whose side are you on ultimately?
Consumer. I think no doubt about that. And I think that North Star has to be very clear from the beginning. And to us, it's been very clear. We are solving healthcare for the consumer. Everything else has to come together to work for this one entity. And that makes it very easy for us to make trade-offs. What are we building for?
Yeah, but the disruption is difficult because the entrenched players, the ancien regime, as they say in French, is not going to let go so easily because they're used to premium offerings and cushy kind of deals, right?
Yeah, if it were easy, someone else would have done it, and then where's the opportunity? So I think it's difficult. It's a huge market. It has a lot of pain points for the consumer. For an entrepreneur, that's like the perfect ecosystem to play in. If it were too easy, then it's just going to money will decide who will win.
Oh, let's get to the more difficult part in India,
Yeah.
which is that, you're talking about quacks and, there is joke that
Yes.
the doctor will write anything for you. If you want a leave certificate, he'll do it for you. If you want a prescription, he'll do it for you. Or he's on the take with the pharma companies. So there's a huge amount of ethical issues involved in this. And you are saying somebody uploads a prescription online. Is there any way you provide a check and balance so that it's as authentic as possible? We don't want, that ethical barriers coming the way.
So I think, number one, in India, in most pharmacies, you walk in, you can pick up any medicine without a prescription. So I think getting prescription from a quack is the next level problem, actually. If you see the number of, we have an antibiotic crisis happening in the country. People take two kinds of medicines without prescription. One is the kind of medicines that give you some high, so psychotropics. Then they also take, in India, unfortunately, antibiotics willy-nilly, which is a huge public health disaster waiting to happen. I think what a digital audit trail does is at least make sure that everything is recorded, what's going from where to where, under which doctor's prescription. So all of that is now recorded, and actually it gives the system an opportunity to know where to start. This is Dr. So-and-so. If there are so many prescriptions of antibiotics, the regulator has all the right to seek all the prescriptions and all the...
So you have that in the...
We have the entire audit trail of...
Something tells me this is very blockchain kind of friendly, right?
Blockchain is going to play a big role in it. In fact, we are involved in one pilot with the government on how blockchain can be applied in the pharma supply chain. It is, I think, it's one of the most important supply chains that is right now the most unsophisticated.
Now, when I started this conversation with you, Prashant, it was all about, e-pharmacy, but we've already seen a huge amount of issues technology-wise, processes and ambitions that look different. So let's look at it from the real stuff, the money, the revenue. How is growth? And how do you see revenue panning out? In the sense, it's not just medicines, right? So let's see how you see for various services, everything together.
So last 3 years or so since inception, every year we grow 2 to 2.5 times. So last year also we...
On a smaller base though.
The base keeps growing. So now on a reasonably large base also we are growing.
Want to tell me the number?
Okay. Maybe one day.
Hundreds of crores?
When we list, you'll know the numbers.
Oh, so that's very clear. You want to be listing, not acquiring, getting acquired. Okay.
So but yeah, certainly many hundreds. So I think that part is there. But we are growing very well. I think with the kind of user base that we have, it's an unbounded market. It's not that the market will cap at this, because our market is not just pharmacy, it's health. And
yeah, that's what makes the revenue play more interesting, because that means that I would like to know what are the other revenue options apart from medicine sales.
I'll tell you. So see, now we have started engaging with insurance in a very meaningful way, because insurance wants to deploy more and more outpatient insurance options. India does not have that so far. So we are working with a bunch of insurance companies to create new models of health insurance with them. That's one big opportunity. The other big opportunity is on the corporate health and wellness side, because employers are getting more and more involved in healthcare, and they have seen that the benefit of a healthy workforce, both in terms of lowering the premiums that they have to pay to insurance, as well as productivity at work, is being noted. And it's very common across the world. It's never existed in India for practical purposes. Now we are seeing that also change, because for a lot of these models, the problem typically was that there was no one system that could control that entire process and ensure data flow, sanctity. So the friction was very high.
Let me ask a devil's advocate question there. Isn't this taking some of the competitive edge out of players like health insurance? It sort of makes it also transparent, that it becomes a commodity in your own business language. So isn't that a...
So I think simplification of healthcare, and healthcare has way too many intermediaries. I think between the patient and the provider, the pharma company or the insurance company or the corporate, that's what
I've heard that in the US, when Healthion was founded. I remember that story.
So there are way too many intermediaries, and there's no reason to have. Typically, a lot of that happens because of the data access and consolidation of demand. That's what intermediaries do typically. I think platforms like us can take care of that pretty easy.
See, that's interesting. So where do you see the future? I mean, you have health insurance people paying you, or but it'll all be more like services. It will be brand agnostic, right? That is very clear. So it's more like focus on the consumer with a strong focus on processes and content rather than the thing. But generally, do you see the future on course like this? Or do you see something emerging out of this where, like you emerged out of HealthKart, something more that you become more of a healthcare locker player rather than a medicine store, something that unlocks value?
I can say with absolute certainty that new things will happen. That is what they are, we don't know. But what we are building towards is certainly we want to be the platform, the partner for the consumer. They need anything in healthcare. We work either with insurance, with pharma, with hospitals, or our own pharmacy or lab, whatever it is needed. We put it together, present, and get it ready for the consumer.
You're not going to get bored anytime soon. That's very fascinating. Thanks so much, Prashant. It's been wonderful talking to you. Welcome to Fireside.
Pleasure.